with the restriction on where the money can come from in a constitutional challenge in this case, would that not be considered almost anti-democratic because you're restricting on how an organization can challenge in the judicial system?
We don't make limitation about challenging a bill of the National Assembly. Each public organization has the right to contest a bill that has been adopted at the National Assembly. What we only say, and in only on few bills that National Assembly have been written in it, it's part of the fundamental characteristic of Quebec. They will not be able to use public money. It doesn't affect la capacité d'ester en justice, but it affects how you will spend millions of dollars contesting bills that are really important for the Quebec nation.
But why do that?
Because, as you can see, the Conseil de la Magistrature spent over $4 million contesting a bill. It's public money. A bill that has been adopted by people who are elected by the population of Quebec. So if you want to contest bills of the National Assembly and you are in a public organization, take your own money.
Yeah, so if you're rich and have a few extra $1 million sitting around and you want to contest a bill in Quebec, yeah, good. But if you want to do it as an organization, that's no longer on the books. That's in essence what Simon Jolin Barrette, who introduced the Quebec Constitution today, the draft, said. James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, what do you think?
Well, you know, Aaron, one of our traditions here on Montreal Now is to call things by their name. This is not a Quebec Constitution. This is very simply a CAQ Constitution. It is an almost Herculean effort by the CAQ to distract from the fact it is one of the worst governments that this province has ever had to endure. But what I find fascinating is when you get people like Simon Jolin Barrette, it's not even a matter of saying the quiet part out loud, but it's all out loud, Aaron. As you quite rightly point out, you want to challenge our laws that the CAQ has brought into being in the interest of democracy. You just use your own money. And I think it's necessary at this point as well, because we're going to hear a lot of complaints, criticisms that the CAQ did not consult. But this is not a Quebec Constitution involves Quebec. It doesn't involve one political party, especially not one political party, which quite frankly, and you and I we've done the math on air, was elected by barely 25% of eligible voters in Quebec. This is not a party that speaks for anything other than a sliver of Quebec's population, all of it in rural areas, all of it ill-informed, and all of it frightened of anything that doesn't look, sound, or perhaps go to church the same way it does. So let's call things by their name. It's a CAQ charter. It's an attempt to distract from the fact that it's in huge trouble on things that people give a damn about. But it's so funny because remember yesterday I was talking to you and I said, gee, I wonder if there might be a line in that theoretical constitution that says, any law enacted by Ottawa will not have any effect in Quebec. And here's my good friend and colleague Phil Autier doing a resume of what's in the proposed constitution. And one of the lines here says, it allows the government to modify the Canadian Constitution. Really? I thought in order to do that, you needed to have, 7 provinces and 50% of the population, as opposed to some guy named Simon and another guy named Francois saying, yeah, we're going to change that. So this is where we are. This is the fantasy land we're being led to by a bunch of increasingly desperate political hacks trying to hide their incompetence behind what they are dressing up as an historic occasion for Quebec. Aaron, these guys are going to be a skid mark on Quebec's political map by next October. And I don't think that this dog and pony show, this insult to the people of Quebec, this insult to the nation of Quebec, if you will, is going to serve them in any stead whatsoever. I'd be very surprised if this thing lasts more than 6 months.
Well,
as a process.
All right, so we know what the process is, right? It's going to be debated. It's going to go through the National Assembly. People will jump up and down. The PQ will say you basically stole our thunder, and then it'll get passed anyway, right? So that's what we're looking at until the next provincial election.
Yeah, which is now, thank God, less than a year away. But this is where we are, Aaron. This is what we've come to, where it's not just the usual linguistic or cultural or identity nonsense, rubbish, distracting crap to take away from the fact that this government is so terrible. No, it's becoming normalized that this is going to be our projet national, that this is going to be the blueprint for the new Quebec. A new Quebec, which quite frankly, and I mentioned this yesterday as well, they talk about 200 years and generations. Who the hell are they talking to with this Constitution? Because you know what, honestly, Aaron, I don't think they're talking to me, and I respectfully submit that anybody who hasn't been here for 200 years is not being spoken to either. I mean, it seems to be implicit in this so-called, Quebec Constitution. I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll also see what happens when the next poll comes up, because I have a thinking suspicion that if anybody is smart, they commission a poll, they will ask, what is your priority, and include the creation of a Quebec Constitution on that priority list.
Well, what do you make of the fact, I don't call this watering down or not, or acknowledging the fact that, hey, we're here too, this idea where they're going to use a better word, enshrining, English institutions or Anglo institutions?
What they said, and it's very interesting you mentioned that, because once again, my colleague Phil Autier pointed out to Monsieur Jolin Barrette, you say you'll be respectful of English language institutions. I'm not a lawyer, says my friend Phil. He says, but that doesn't sound very binding.
Right.
At which point, Jolin Barrette starts to tap dance all around it. Of course, they're not enshrining anything, Aaron. They're just going to basically say, you know what, in the end, this is the Nation du Québec. French is the official language. And if you don't like it here, go back to Canada where you came from.
What was the point of putting that in there to begin with, then?
Just, basically pat us on the head and say, listen, see, we care, we like you. We really, really like you. See, we're going to be respectful. Take a look at Bill 96, chapter and verse, and find all the respect there is in there for the English language community, for the English language.
Yeah.
Why?
All right. Look, again, I just find it kind of rich that the PQ, and I heard the clip yesterday, I'm sure you heard it as well, Paul St. Pierre Plamondon going on about the fact that, you can't just do this on your own. We weren't consulted.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Simon Jolin Barrette saying, oh, wait a sec. We did consult, as you said off the top, Jim, right? They talked to a couple of former Quebec premiers.
Yeah.
I guess they feel they did their homework.
Well, yeah, they did their homework. I mean, they did a cut and paste. You know what I mean? They did their homework.
Yeah.
That's this, and this is going to be the blueprint for the Quebec of tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. It's absolute nonsense. As I say, it is an insult to the intelligence of Quebecers, of all linguistic groups, to all Quebecers. They have managed to turn around and say, you know what? We think you're so stupid, you're going to buy into this. And guess what? I don't think it's going to work. The reaction I'm seeing from all quarters this afternoon in Quebec, Labour, not just the opposition parties, but people who've got skin in the game are turning around and saying, what the hell is this? What are you doing? Don't you have, and in fact, the FTQ, one of the largest labor organizations in Quebec, goes, don't you have better things to do with your time than fool around with stuff like this?
Performative, I guess, to the 10th degree. All right. Let me go on and talk about this clip because I did not hear it. You're right. You're right. OMG, Legault gets caught speaking too much English. Jim, what happened?
He was addressing a meeting of bordering U.S. states. I guess it was governors or whatever. And it was discovered that the Premier of Quebec had delivered most of his speech in English, which, of course, had everyone getting the vapors and clutching their pearls in Quebec City, including Pablo Rodriguez, head of the Liberal Party of Quebec, saying, I gave speeches in the UN, and, I would give them in French. They're mostly in French, although one of the things, perhaps he did mention it, I didn't see it in the quotes, is that French is one of the official languages of the UN, but we'll put that to one side. The whole idea here that all of a sudden it's horrible for the Premier of Quebec addressing Anglophones. And then the excuse is, they have simultaneous translation. Listen, if you hear English in Quebec City, your head's not going to explode. Unless, of course, you have a picture of byline with Quebecor. But apart from that, believe me, there is no threat to your health if you hear the English language being spoken out loud. And one thing if you will allow me this aside, Aaron, after all, and I'm sure our listeners have seen it as well, if you read French language news reports, when they're talking about language, one of the metaphors they use when you don't want to keep using the word English all the time, or the English language, you would say, la langue de Shakespeare, okay? Much in the same way as French was la langue de Molière. You took these famous playwrights and, okay, today, in the story that I'm talking to you about Legault's speech in English, okay? They say, I'm translating here, 2/3 of his speech was delivered in the language of Taylor Swift, which I think is just So I swear to God, you can look it up on the TVA site.
That's too funny.
I swear to God, I laughed out loud. But you know what? It's 2025. Time to move on. William who?
Yeah.
Moliere who? But this is it. I swear to God, Aaron, it's just so crazy.
The language of Taylor Swift.
Crazy.
That's pretty crazy.
La langue de Taylor Swift.
Incroyable, Jim. Incroyable. I want to ask you one last thing before we go. I'm asking today, so I had Valerie Plante in here yesterday, talked about a bunch of stuff, and I the one question I failed to ask, and I really wanted to, but whatever. I played a clip back last September. I had her in studio, and I said, so we know there's an election coming up, and you've already said you plan to run again, to which she said, yeah, absolutely, I'm going to run again. And of course, she chose to do otherwise, which, should have led me to ask, is it because you didn't want to, or is there something going on? Is it the party, perhaps, that came to you and said they didn't feel they had a chance to win if you would run? So maybe we'll never get an answer to that question, not that it matters anymore. But based on this now, on the Gazette poll that came out yesterday that shows 62%, even now, of people, right, 3 weeks away from an election, they say that the one thing that the overriding thing for them is they want to see change. And I brought that question up, and then the sort of the standard answer would be, well, people always want change. She said when I ran a second time back in 2021, people said the same thing, and look, I got reelected. Is this change thing, Jim, does this signify anything as far as you're concerned, or is it just simply always a matter of, hey, it's 2 terms, same administration, of course we want change?
Yeah, but the key there, I think, is 2 terms, Aaron. And I think no matter what you want to say about Valerie Plante, she's a very savvy politician. She can read the room. She saw what was going on. I don't think she was pushed out. I don't think anybody in that party would dare try and remove her from her position. But I think she looked at the situation. She figured, okay, you know what? We've got through 2 terms, but now it's going to be a very, very ugly. And I don't feel like being leader of the opposition. So you know what? I'm going to leave. And if it does my party good, it'll do my party good. But I think that's as far as it went. But I think she absolutely knew that desire for change, rightly or wrongly, was going to determine her political future. And I think she, one of the best things, like I say, in politics is also knowing when to leave.
Do you think, Jim, if she decided to stay and run for a 3rd term, she'd have a chance?
No, absolutely not. And I don't care how many bicycle ties she hands out, Aaron Rand.
Okay, I just wanted your honest opinion, Jim.
Well, you got it, buddy.
I'm wearing it today. James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Thanks, pal.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.